Hello, everyone. As Dave said, my name is Jeff Peterson with Nu-Calgon. I've been with the company for 22 years, based in the Chicago area. I call on the Excelsior branches and would be happy to deal with contractors. If you have any questions out there or need my assistance in any way, shape, or form, as far as technical ability afterwards, after the webinar, if you want to get a hold of me, I can certainly help you any way I can. Nu-Calgon, for those of you who don't know, is a chemical company basically in the HVAC refrigeration industry. Calgon name goes back about 65 years, and we have a wide variety of products for HVAC refrigeration maintenance. We can do things from coil cleaning to cooling towers to boilers to chillers to ice machines and a whole bunch of products in between. We're a sales force of 30 people around the country, and we are direct factory sales force, so we can hopefully help you in any problem areas that you may have. Today we're going to touch on a few main products. We're not going to go through the whole product line, but we're going to touch on some main products today, and we have a PowerPoint of about 50 slides, and I'm just going to go through them and just discuss each product as we go. Okay. All right. Okay, here's the agenda. We're going to talk about the flushing solvent called RX11 Flush, very popular product. We're going to talk about Easy Seal and Easy Dry. They kind of go together. A product called Acid Scavenger. And then we're going to get into some coil cleaners, and then a product called AC Renew. RX11 Flush. This is a product for flushing line sets during conversions. From R22 to 410A, and it's also used for burnout applications. We think it's the #1 selling flush in the market. It's been out about 12 years. RX11 Flush is OEM recommended. We have several equipment manufacturers that have recommended by name, and they have endorsed the flushing procedure specifically that we have come up with. The ingredient in there is a proven product made by DuPont. It's been around for many years, called Vertrel. It's a well-established product that DuPont makes. It's a very good degreaser. When this was first introduced, this product was made to replace R11 as a solvent. For those of you who have been around a while, R11 was a great cleaner, as it was a solvent. It was also obviously a refrigerant, but it was well known that it was a great cleaning solvent. So RX11 Flush was basically introduced to kind of replace R11 from a cleaning solvent standpoint. So it's a very good degreaser, and it's also very easy to use. It's pressurized, and we'll talk about that. So there's some advantages of RX11 Flush. Here's some of the OEMs that actually have recommended our product, specifically York, Goodman, Daikin, Coleman, and Nordyne. Obviously, there's a lot of equipment manufacturers that are not on this list. Every equipment manufacturer is different as far as what they recommend. Some don't recommend flushes by name. Some just recommend you should flush and contact the OEM for specific flushing recommendations. It's also part of the EPA SNAP program, so there's no issues with things like venting. 134A is the propellant in the RX11 Flush, but it's not a venting issue. You're not per se venting refrigerant in the atmosphere. It's based on HFC technology. It's an ozone-friendly, environmental-friendly product. It's non-toxic, non-flammable, does not leave any residue, and it's easy to get out of the system. You do not have to worry about the product staying in the system or boiling off too early. Boiling point is kind of an important ingredient or important feature of all these flushes in the market now. When we first introduced RX11 12, 13 years ago, we were the only flush out there. Now there's quite a few different flushes, and each of them have their pros and cons, but boiling point is kind of an important feature. You don't want the product to boil off too quickly, or the solvent won't do any cleaning, and you don't want the boiling point to be too high, or you'll have problem getting the product out of the system. So it's very important to have a good boiling point. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's a very good degreaser, and it will clean the internal walls of the line set, and it will. Okay, keep Okay, it will clean the internal walls of the copper tubing to remove the oil. So that's why it's a good degreaser. You want to get that oil out of the line set. That's really the whole point for flushing line sets. And as far as using it as a cleaning solvent after a burnout, if you have a burnout and you have a lot of wax, a lot of oil, a lot of sludge, a lot of particulate, a lot of contaminants in that system, before you replace the compressor, you would want to use this solvent to clean the evaporator and the condenser just to get all that stuff out of the system before you put the new compressor in. So the product has to be a degreaser. It has to be a cleaner. So remember, it really has two functions as a product. It's a product to use after a burnout to clean up a system, and it's also a product to use to clean up a line set when you're converting from R22 to 410A. As I said earlier, it is easy to use. It's pressurized. You don't really need any special charging cylinder. You don't need anything special to use the product. You can see there's a valve on top of that can. That valve has been the valve of choice from the beginning, and you really just screw that onto the top of the valve. It does not pierce the can. Some people think that it's actually a piercing valve, but it's not a piercing valve. You can take that valve on and off as many times as you want, and you can continue to use that can over and over and over again. It's not a one-shot deal. Once you put that valve on there, you can take it off, okay? So some people think once you put it on there, you can't take it off. That's not true. You put the valve on. This allows the solvent to be easily injected into the system. And like I said, you can reuse that valve over and over. So here's a picture of screwing the valve onto the can. Some of you may notice there's a new little relief valve on the side of that valve. We put that on about maybe 2 years ago. You do not want to hook nitrogen up to the can of RX-11. That's not how you use RX-11. It's already pressurized. There's no need to put nitrogen on our can. However, some contractors around the country have mistakenly put a can of nitrogen to our can of RX-11, which is not a good thing. And we now have a relief valve on our valve in case somebody does that. So please do not put nitrogen into the can of RX-11 flush. Then, for the most part, you go ahead and attach the valve, your hose to your valve, and then you can use some kind of device to get it into the line set. We have a gun, a flush gun, or we have a little stopper. As you can see in that picture, there's a little black stopper, and it's that simple. Pictures there kind of show you how to use it. And then as far as your step-by-step procedure, you inject it into the system just like you did R11. The key is, though, you need some kind of restriction at the exit or where the solvent leaves the line set. You do want to restrict that point. You do not want to have the flush just go flying through the copper tubing, the line set. You want to restrict the flow of that toward the end, so you crimp it to build up pressure. If you don't do that, the solvent will just leave the exit rather quickly, and the solvent won't really have time to clean the line set properly. So what you really want to do is make sure you crimp the end of that line set, and it will really help increase mass flow. Then the procedure is, and I don't know if it's on here or not, but it's on our literature, you want to use a certain amount of flush based on the length of the line set, okay, and the diameter of the line set. So up to half-inch tubing, you use 30 seconds for every 50 feet. Up to 7/8 tubing, use 90 seconds for every 50 feet. And I believe that's on in a few screens. So you really have to watch how much flush you're using, and then you push the nitrogen afterwards, 120 psi of nitrogen. And then you evacuate the system. There's your boiling point, and a 2-pound cylinder will flush up to 7 tons, and a 1-pound cylinder will flush up to 4 tons. But what we try to tell people is if you're going to flush for burnouts, you really go by tonnage. If you're going to flush line sets, you really should go by length of line set and diameter of the line set. So there's 2 applications for using the flush, and there's really 2 different ways of measuring how much flush you need. We recently just came out with a liquid flush about a month ago, give or take. We know there's been some competitive flushes on the market that use a liquid, and some contractors like the liquid. Some people prefer that they would just pour the liquid into an empty cylinder, and then you can hook up your nitrogen to that cylinder. It's really the same concept. It's the same product. The only difference is the delivery method on how to get the product into the line set. So the original RX11 is pressurized. Now our new offering is liquid that you would pour in to an empty cylinder, and there's a kit there that you can see. So the single can is part number 4300-30, and then the kit is 4300-38. So now if a contractor wants to buy our flush, he now has an option whether he wants it pressurized or whether he wants a liquid. So we feel we have the best of both worlds now. You can pick whatever one you want. It's your preference. If you have a burnout and you are not using this, just for flushing line sets, but you're using this to really clean up a system, we came out with a schematic here a couple of years ago. This goes probably back about 8-9 years, and we just show you possible entry points, and that's with the letter A, and then we show you possible exit points with the letter B. And then the letter C, we kind of recommend that you bypass or remove those components in the system. You obviously don't want to push this through a compressor. You probably don't want to push it through a filter dryer or a TXV valve. You want to bypass or remove those. It's not going to, the solvent's not going to hurt anything in the system, but as you're pushing that stuff, that crud through the system, if you push it through these small orifices, you'll obviously have some plugging issues. So on our schematic here, we recommend that you bypass. So really, what's going on in the market right now? I think everybody knows what's going on with the price of refrigerant, specifically 22. The price of R22 is going up quite a bit lately. So people are converting and switching over to 410A. That's been going on for a couple of years. I know the dry units last year, a lot of people went to the dry units to keep using R22. But as we're all seeing now, the price of 22 is getting very expensive. So it looks like a lot of people probably going to 22 equipment this year and in the future. So if you do use, if you do go to 410A, you do have to replace that line set, and if you can't replace it, or if you elect not to replace it, you should flush the line set. When installing the new equipment, some line sets are buried in walls or cannot be replaced. They're in concrete or who knows where under a floor. So that's very time-consuming, very expensive. And most of these copper line sets you can reuse as long as you clean the mineral oil out of the line set. The whole point of this is the old mineral oil is not really compatible with the new 410A refrigerant. So you want to get as much of that old oil out of the line set as possible. And that's the whole point behind the flushing. And there you go. That's that last bullet point. The problem is the mineral oil is layered on the inside of the line and is not miscible with the new HFC refrigerant. You're never going to get all the oil out, but you do want to get as much of the oil out as you can. And here's a picture of a line set with contaminants, and they say things like copper oxide, sludge, varnish, moisture. If you have a burnout and if you have an old system, this can really be what it looks like. So you have a line set with mineral deposits, and you have a line set after POE oil has gone through it, and you just want to get as much of that stuff out as you can. If not, you're going to plug up TXV valves, you're going to plug up dryer cores. And lately some people have called me and talked to us and said, hey, some of these OEMs are not recommending that you really need to flush the line sets like they did a couple years ago. And our answer is, well, we really think flushing a line set's a good idea, not just from retrofitting equipment, but also from plugging up expansion valves and callbacks, TXV valves, etc. If you don't get that old stuff out of the copper tubing when you install new equipment, there's a high chance that you can have some callbacks and some issues down the road. So our answer is flushing does not take that long. It's really not a very involved process. It's not overly expensive. If you do the procedure the right way and you really do it properly, it doesn't take that much solvent to flush the line sets. Maybe it takes 20-30 minutes at the most to do a job. So why not be on the safe side and just make sure you're doing it properly so you don't have any callbacks? So that's kind of been our answer to some people when they say, what about the OEMs? You don't have to use the whole can. Here's your 2-pound canister, can do up to 5 line sets. Many years ago when contractors were using it, they would tell us, oh, this stuff's so expensive. And we were surprised to hear that, because really we don't think it's all that expensive. And what we were coming to find out is guys were using too much product. You don't really need to fill that whole line set with the flush. You don't put it in and then wait for it to come out at the other end. You go ahead and put it in based on the length of the line set and diameter line set, and then you turn the valve off, and then you go ahead and flush your nitrogen through. So really, if you look at the price, we feel your price, it's about $20 to flush, one line set. And if you're going to go with a 1-pounder, it's going to be a little more expensive, like around $26. That's what you're paying. That's not what you're charging your customer. So it's not all that expensive, really, in the big picture. So that's kind of our logic, is better be safe than sorry. And here's what I pointed out earlier about the instructions. Establish one end of the line set as your injection point, and the other end will be your exit port. Use some kind of restriction at the exit port, and this is important, like I mentioned, because you want to make sure you build up some pressure. You don't want the flush to go in and then come out right away. You want to build up pressure. You want to leave that flush in because you're going to be pushing the nitrogen through. And you want to follow with 120 psi nitrogen purge. That's very important. You want to make sure that you get the flush out with nitrogen. All the flushes out on the market do recommend nitrogen afterwards. All right, and then evacuate accordingly. And again, low boiling point, and it's very simple to get in, and it's very simple to get out. This is for people listening who have never done this before. You can also go to our website, www.Nu-Calgon.com. We have a 6-minute video on our homepage, and it shows you exactly how to use the flush. It has a live person cleaning out a line set. So it's a step-by-step video on how to actually use RX11 flush. So if you've never done it and you want to watch that 6-minute video, it's probably a good idea. And he just did something on my screen here, so I cannot. Hold on. My screen's not going down now. Okay. All right, so we have a couple different figure sizes. Do you have a product similar? I see a question. Dave just pointed out there's a question. Do you have a product similar to CF20? CF20 is a liquid flush, a liquid solvent, I should say, that came out about 20 years ago, before these flushes, these pressurized flushes really came out. CF20 is not really a product that is recommended to flush out a system, and there's quite a bit of reasons why. And we do have a product similar. It's called degreasing solvent EF. It's just a gallon liquid of a degreasing solvent, but we do not recommend that much product to be pushed into a system. Boiling point is an issue. Getting that product out of the system is an issue. It's not that good of a cleaner. So who's ever asking about CF20, I would be very careful putting CF20 into a system for various reasons. And that's why there's 12 or 11 or 12 or 13 other flushes on the market now that you don't need that type of, it's a different chemistry. The flushes that are coming out in the market now are really built toward flushing and getting product out of the system. So if you want to call me afterwards or email me afterwards and talk more specifically, I'll give you guys my cell number. It's 847-323-1874. So we now have some bigger cylinders of RX11 flush. It's a 13-pounder and a 26-pounder. For you guys who do a lot of flushing, you may want to check into that. It's a lot less expensive to buy it in bulk. Here's all the different pictures. You can see the 2-pound, the 1-pound. We have a starter kit for the pressurized. We have a starter kit for the liquid. And we have these big cylinders. We have the 2+1 pack. We have a flush gun, a flush hose. We have some tools. So this line has really expanded for us. This is a big market for us. It's one of our, it's actually, if you add it all up, it's our biggest product line in our company, and it keeps growing. As time goes on, more and more people realize flushing is something they should do, and it's just important to use the right product and do it the right way. So we have a nice variety for you. So if there's any other, I don't see any other questions being typed. That was just a nice overview of the product and the procedure. And like I said, Nu-Calgon.com would have a specific video on there on using the flush to do it if you've never done it before. Okay, we're going to move on to another product now called AC Easy Seal. AC Easy Seal has become a very, very popular sealant for fixing refrigerant leaks. And the history here is there's been other leak sealants out in the market for a number of years, probably 8-9 years, and those products were used by contractors if there was a small leak and they couldn't find the leak. And they would go to this leak sealant to use it as maybe a last resort if it was just a very small micro leak and they couldn't find it. So they would put this leak sealant in, and guys used it, and it was a very popular product for many years. And it was not our product. Nu-Calgon did not have a leak sealant. However, we were asked by many, many wholesalers to come out with a leak sealant because it was a product that they were selling, and they would prefer that they would buy from somebody like us if we would have such a product. So we did a lot of research, and we made sure that the sealant we were going to introduce to the industry worked well, worked better than the flush, or worked better than the sealant that was already in the industry. And we wanted to have a product that was very, user-friendly, and a product that worked really nice and easy for the contractor. So we spent a lot of time researching the product, and we introduced it about 3 years ago, and it's called AC Easy Seal. And the history of the Easy Seal is it was used for many years before we got involved with it. The company who manufactures it for us used it in the military in different markets. One of the markets was it was used in submarines. The air conditioning on a submarine, if they would develop a leak at sea, they would have a problem potentially fixing that air conditioning leak. So they would have this product in the system ahead of time in case a leak occurred. The sealant would act as a product that would be a product they could put in the system ahead of time. So if a leak occurred, it would fix the leak while at sea. And then they also put it, and they sold it to the government for the satellites. They sold it to NASA, and there's air conditioning systems on satellites up in space, and if a leak occurred in that air conditioning system, this product was already in the system, and it would seal that leak. So this company had some good history with selling it on some pretty interesting applications. They then got involved in the automotive industry, and they've been selling it to the automotive industry for several years, quite a few years, until before we even got involved with it. And it was been very successful for them. And then, like I said, we've had it out for 3 years. We introduced it in July of 2009. So we're now in our 3rd year, almost our 3rd full year. And we did our history. As I tell people, we made sure the product was going to work. We certainly didn't want to come out with a product that was going to have problems and upset contractors and plug up systems and cause all kind of issues out in the field. We felt that if contractors put this in a system and it plugged up the compressor and it plugged up TXV valves and it didn't work properly, we would have a whole lot of unhappy contractors. And we certainly didn't want that. We feel we have a good reputation. We've been around about 65 years, and we certainly didn't want contractors upset with us or upset with wholesalers, and then everybody would be mad at us. So guys, I can tell you that we, rest assured, we did our due diligence, and we made sure that the product works properly, so you should not have any problems in the system using this. So it is a product for sealing refrigerant leaks in refrigeration and AC systems. You can use it to fix existing leaks, or you can also be proactive and put it in systems to prevent future leaks, which kind of was the whole point behind the submarine and the NASA story, is they were using it ahead of time in case a leak occurred. So you could actually put it in systems to prevent potential callbacks on warranty jobs or new construction. I know there are some contractors doing that now. It's a proven chemistry that does work. It's definitely been out over 10 years now in the automotive industry. It is a pressurized can, so it's easy to get in the system. You do not have to pull a vacuum into our product. You do not have to use a vacuum to get the product out, pull a vacuum to get the product out of the can. The reason we called it Easy Seal is because it's easy for you to get it out of the can and into the system. It literally takes 1 to 2 minutes. It saves you time and money over the competition that's that's out, one of the competitors that's out in the market now. So from a ease standpoint, much easier, much less time consuming just to get it into the system, so you're not spending 5-10 minutes trying to get the product into the system. Our hose is reusable, which is another advantage. There's a competitive product out there that you have to throw the hose away after every use. Ours, since it is pressurized, we have a solvent that will clean out the hose, so you can reuse our hose over and over. Now, this is a piercing hose. This is different than the valve on the RX-11 flush. So this will actually pierce the can of the sealant. All right. You attach the piercing hose, to the low side port, the suction side of the system. You turn the can upside down, and like I said, it takes about a minute to 2 to inject. And what's different about ours versus the other leak sealant on the market is ours is strictly a gas. It's a vapor. There is no oil in that can. So if you would shake that can, you might even think it's empty, but you would hear some vapor in there. The green can is 3 ounces, and the yellow can is 1.25 ounces, and actually there's some propellant in there. So the point is, you do not need a lot of product to find the leak. So you are not putting a bunch of product in a system. I know sometimes contractors are concerned about adding too much of this into a system, but in reality, you're really only adding a couple ounces to a system. So it's not an issue, and you're not adding any oil to the system. This product does not have to travel with the oil to get in there. It travels with the refrigerant. It acts like a refrigerant. So it circulates through the system looking for air and moisture. All right, so once it finds air or moisture, and it has to have a lot of air or a lot of moisture, that's why it won't react to a dryer or a cap tube or a solenoid valve, and that's what makes ours different. So it's not going to be plugging up things in your system that it can't plug up. So it takes about 20 minutes, and once it finds that air and moisture, and once it finds it, it seals it, and it puts like an epoxy coating on there. So in 3 years, we haven't had any issues with systems failing or compressors plugging or contractors upset or ticked off at us because it's screwing up systems. So you can be rest assured, if you elect to use this product, you can be rest assured that it's not going to hurt the system. If you've never used a leak sealant before and you're very concerned or a little nervous or a little worried, hopefully I can put you at ease to tell you it's nothing to be concerned about. We would not introduce something to the industry that would cause a bunch of problems. We would have lawsuits, and we would have frustrated contractors. It's compatible with all oils and refrigerants except ammonia, which is really not an issue, I wouldn't think, with any of you guys. So 100% of this gas, this mixture, circulates with the refrigerant, and it just travels through the system, looking for air and moisture, and it's not an issue as far as plugging anything up or pulling. If you have to pull a system down, it's not going to screw up with your vacuum pumps or your gauges or anything else that you're going to use. So there's no negative issues with any components as well. And we require less sealant in the system, since it all circulates rather than having an oil with it, where the oil might set with the compressor. Since we don't use an oil, you don't have to worry about our oil going in the compressor. When operating a system for maintenance, the sealant will travel with the gas during pump down or recovery rather than layering in the walls with the oil, potentially setting up when contacting the outside atmosphere. So again, just no issues. What about 410A? Sometimes people ask about what about 410A, because there are obviously leaks as well in 410A systems. There's only really one additional step, and you just have to pump the system down so the low side pressure is between 40 and 50 PSI. We have a product bulletin that is on our website. If you want to read specific instructions on 410A, I think it lists every step by step on how to use it. There's 10 steps for R410A, and there's only 8 steps for R22. So it's a minor difference for 410A. You just have to pump the system down. This allows the pressure in the can to overcome the pressure in the low side of the system, so it can be easily injected in 1 to 2 minutes. So 410A systems is fine. Once in the system, it travels with the refrigerant, behaving much like a vapor or a mist. This allows it to work quicker while traveling through the system. It behaves similar to blood clotting to form a, keep going, okay, to form like a scab. Like I said, it hardens in the system. So activated by moisture and air, which will exist at a leak, and once activated, forms an epoxy-like seal at the site of a leak. Big question that comes up is how big of a leak will it fix? And the answer is, really, you should always look for the leak first. If you can't find the leak, that's when you would use the sealant. And if the system leaks itself out in 7 days or less, you should not use this. It'd be too big of a leak. All right, I see there's a couple questions. Dave is looking for some questions here. If I have a 100-ton split system that I may have to flush out, liquid line is, what product would you recommend? All right, so I think that's a flush system, a flush question from our flushing. Here's the answer to that. On our website, www.Nu-Calgon.com, we have a calculator on our homepage. So if you have a big system, all you have to do is go to our homepage, you plug in the length of the line set, and then you would plug in your 1 5/8. There's a where you click on the diameter of the line set, and we will tell you, right, that calculator will tell you exactly how much flush you would need. Your question is which flush or which product would you use? It doesn't matter if you use the liquid or the pressurized. They do the same thing. We would probably recommend the pressurized. We believe the pressurized is a better way to go. So for the person who asked that question, go to Nu-Calgon.com. On our homepage, there's an RX11 calculator. Plug in your length in your 1 5/8, and you'll get an answer. Okay? I think there was another question. Oh, CF40. What about CF40? I've never heard of CF40. I've never heard of CF40. How does it work in outer space? No oxygen. I've heard that question before, but in an air conditioning system, the AC Easy Seal works. It's in an air conditioning system in the satellite, I guess is the best way to answer that. But I have had that question before, but it's in the satellite and it works. So I'm not a scientist, so I don't know if there's a technical answer for that, but it legitimately is a product used by NASA. Was there any other questions? All right. So the point of the size of the leak, going back to that, really this is for micro leaks, guys. We're not telling you that this is to fix every leak out in the field. We want you to find the leak and fix it the right way first. This is really in a situation where you just can't find the leak. It's in the evaporator coil or it's in the line set. So that's really the main point of this product. It's really to help you save your customer time and money and be used where you think it should be used. Don't use it to find and fix every leak. If there's a crack or if the leak is just too big, this is not for those leaks. Those should be found and fixed the proper way. Sometimes you might need 2 cans. If it's a big 20-ton system, you might need 2 or 3 cans. It's not meant to fix the biggest leaks there are. So what size cans do you need to treat the system? So the 1.5 to 5 ton system, you would use 1 of the green can. Now, like I said a few minutes ago, what if it's a 20-ton system? Well, that doesn't mean you need 4 cans. It's not the size of the system. It's really the size of the leak. So you can have a very, very small leak in a 20-ton system and only have to use 1 can. But let's say you have a 20-ton system and you put 1 can in. What we would say is you monitor the leak. If it doesn't fix the leak right away, we recommend you add a 2nd can. So that's kind of how you play that. You don't have to stick 4 cans in because it's a 20-ton system. If it's a 1.5 ton system or under, that's where we recommend the yellow can, the SS can. That stands for small systems. That would be like a refrigeration system, a PTAC unit, even your van or your car. You can use the yellow can in automotive applications, all right? So there's really only 2 cans. This is a 2-pack. This is our new package for 2 cans with the piercing hose. So that is something you can buy if you want to buy 2 cans together with the piercing hose. And that's just a picture of the piercing hose and the 2-pack. It's a 1/4 inch flare fitting. And that's, you need that hose. This is the hose you have to use to get the sealant out of our can. So finding and repairing leaks, it can be time consuming. Sometimes it's difficult. It's not cheap. It can be somewhat expensive, especially charging your customer to add R22 to the system with the price of R22. And the price of R22 keeps going up, as we touched on earlier. So fixing leaks, finding leaks, sealing leaks sometimes isn't the cheapest thing in the world. So this is a good option. If you're looking for something like this for a customer, it's a good option to go to. And again, it can also prevent leaks in the future. The other competitive leak sealant out there also has a product that you would use if you have a lot of moisture in the system. So we felt that when we introduced our product, we should also have a similar product, and we call this Easy Dry. And it's somewhat new technology. It's like a dehydrator. It dehydrates and breaks the moisture down, and it eliminates it and brings it back to the dryers. All systems should have dryers on it, and when you use this Easy Dry, you would put this in the system ahead of time before the Easy Seal if you're concerned that there's excess moisture in the system. If you think your system, maybe it's a new construction, a new house, and you don't know if the system was open for a period of time and you want to be on the safe side, and you want to use the sealant as a proactive measure and you want to put the sealant in ahead of time, you might want to put the drying agent in first. So it's not something you need. It's not something you have to put in. It's just a product that you can use before you put Easy Seal in. And you inject it in just like Easy Seal, same hose, just attach it to the suction side of the system, turn the can upside down, takes about 2 minutes, and it's compatible to all oils and refrigerants except ammonia. So it's basically the same thing as Easy Seal, but it's a different application. It converts the system moisture into a natural organic material that is compatible with and mixes with the oil. 1 can of Easy Seal will convert 6 grams or 1,700 parts per million of moisture in a gallon of oil, and that's a lot of moisture in a gallon of oil. You would hopefully never see that much moisture in a system. So this product can really convert and do a good job if there's a lot of moisture in the system. Because it eliminates moisture, it actually helps the dryer work better and helps prevent acid formation. It will prevent moisture levels from growing or eliminate moisture if it already exists in the system. So some guys use this religiously, some guys use this all the time, some don't. It's your choice, but we just want to let you know it is available as something to consider for putting in the system before the sealant. We're going to touch on a new product called Acid Scavenger, and we've had it in a liquid form. The product on the left in a box has been out for many years, and it is a product to help prevent acid formation, and it's now available in a pressurized version. This is brand new, came out a couple months ago, so now a contractor can put our Acid Scavenger in any system, whether it be commercial system, a residential system, a closed system, an open system. The compressor could be running, and you just insert it on the suction side, and you put it in to prevent acid formation, and it prevents a potential acid burnout. So it's a good preventative maintenance product to put in ahead of time. We sell over $1 million a year of the liquid, so it is a very popular product for us, and it's now available in a pressurized version. So that's something you guys might want to consider to be proactive to prevent potential burnouts or acid formation. We're going to touch on some coil cleaners. We have 11 different coil cleaners. We're not going to talk about all 11 coil cleaners today. I know some guys use a variety of some coil cleaners. Some guys like using just condenser coil cleaners and evaporator coil cleaners. Everybody has their favorite, but everything's based on pH, guys, okay? pH is very important. Every liquid has a pH, whether it's coffee or orange juice or alcohol or water. 7 is considered neutral. Above 7 is alkaline, or you could use the word basic, or you could use the word caustic. But anything above 7 is an alkaline, anything below 7 is acidic. So depending on the coil cleaner you use, depending on the pH of it, that's why some coil cleaners are stronger than others. Some have a high pH, which means it's very aggressive, and some have maybe a pH of a little over 7, which means they're not as aggressive. Others may have a pH of 1 or 2, which means they would be aggressive on the acidic side, and others may have a pH of 5 or 6, would again be closer to neutral on the acidic side. So the point here to know is there's only 2 types of coil cleaner, acid and non-acid. If you're going to clean with water, that would give you a pH of 7, and cleaning with water would do an okay job. I mean, we all know cleaning with water helps, but we also know that when we take showers, we use soap, and when we wash our car, we use soap, and when we clean the house, we use chemicals to clean. So water by itself will not clean the crud off a condenser coil or an evaporator coil. You need some kind of chemical to physically remove the grease or the dirt or the debris or whatever is on that coil. So there's dozens and dozens of different coil cleaners on the market, but they're either acid or alkaline, and that's really as simple as it gets. It just depends what chemical is in those coil cleaners to make it work. So what makes a high-quality, highly effective alkaline cleaner? And the easy answer is there's got to be enough stuff in there to make the coil cleaner work. You can't just put a weak chemical in there and say, oh yeah, this will clean anything, any kind of equipment that's out there. You have to have certain surfactants, and you have to have certain detergents so they can emulsify, and they have to break down the product, whatever the grease or the oil or the sludge. So there's a lot of different different chemicals is basic considered alkaline? We're looking at questions here. Yes, basic and alkaline are the same thing. I think I answered that. So yes, basic and alkaline are the same thing. But the point is, if you use a 14 pH coil cleaner, that's going to be stronger than an 8 pH or a 9 pH or a 10 pH. So a lot of times guys don't know what you're grabbing. When you go to the wholesaler and when you go to Excelsior and you grab a gallon of coil cleaner off the shelf, it doesn't say what the pH is on the label, so you don't know that. So how are you going to know if something works or not? And really, it's by trial and error. It's by you guys grabbing a gallon of coil cleaner and going to the job site and making sure that the product does what it should do. Is it foaming the crud out? Do you see dirt getting out on that foam? Do you feel it's doing a good job? And you don't really know sometimes until you actually try it. And that's one of those things. You just got to find a favorite and stick with it. That's why we sell 11 different coil cleaners. But the one thing that we really promote is alkalines are better cleaners than acids. Out of the 11 coil cleaners, 10 are alkaline and 1 is acidic. So we strongly believe alkalines are the way to go. They're normally going to be safer. They're normally going to clean better, and especially for grease. Alkalines remove grease a lot better. If there's anybody listening who cleans coils on rooftops of restaurants, you will definitely find out that alkalines will remove the grease better than the acids will. And that's a very important feature. Our number one coil cleaner is called Nu-Bright. That's been around since 1992. It's blue, and it is a very strong product. It is considered hazardous. It is considered aggressive. It is highly, highly alkaline. It is a 14 on the pH scale, so it will burn your hands. You should wear goggles, and you should wear rubber gloves. You guys, when you clean coils and you're using aggressive chemical, you should always wear gloves and goggles, because if this stuff gets on your skin, it will burn. Now, the good news is alkalines will not penetrate your skin. If you get Nu-Bright on your skin, on your hands, and it will burn you, you'll feel it burning, you should just stop what you're doing and wash it off with water. Water will rinse it off your skin. It will not absorb through your skin. Most acids are the opposite. They do absorb into your skin. You will not feel them burning initially. You will feel them burning later on when they actually absorb into your skin. And the hydrofluoric acids, which we don't sell, but hydrofluoric acids will attack bone marrow and calcium, and they will seek calcium in your bones, so you do not feel it burning until later on that day or that night, when it's like throbbing so bad you have to go and get shots. You got to go to the hospital and you got to get shots to neutralize the acid from attacking your bone. Alkalines don't do that. So alkalines you just wash off with water. The more it burns, that means the more aggressive it is. So if you get a coil cleaner on your skin and it doesn't burn you, you'll know it's not a heavy, heavy alkaline, okay? So that is one way of knowing how strong it is, the burning. Obviously, you don't want to get it on your skin, but you just got to be careful. Nu-Bright is also a foamer. It will foam, and it will pull a lot of that dirt and a lot of that crud out of the coil. A lot of guys like foaming coil cleaners because they see the stuff coming out on that foam. Most guys, if they don't see the foam and they don't see the dirt pulling out, sometimes they don't think the coil cleaner is working. And that's not always the case, all right? Coil cleaner will work even if it doesn't foam, but the foaming coil cleaners will pull dirt out. And that's what most contractors like about Nu-Bright. It's a good foaming product, and it pulls a lot of the crap out. It's USDA approved. It's also biodegradable, and it's a very, very popular product. And there's a picture of it foaming, and that's not a real dirty coil. That's a coil at our company in St. Louis. We just wanted to show you the foam. But if that coil hadn't been cleaned in a couple of years, and you're up on a rooftop or in a backyard or in a parking lot cleaning this coil, and it's dirty, you would see a lot of crud coming out on that foam. It's impressive. We also have it in aerosol. It's a foaming aerosol coil cleaner, good for grease and residential units, and you do have to rinse this. Microchannel coils are getting pretty popular now. Everybody starts asking about microchannel. You got to be careful. You cannot use Nu-Bright on microchannel. You cannot use a heavy alkaline on microchannel. The manufacturers of this type of equipment, this stuff, microchannel, only want you to use products between a pH of anywhere from 7.5 to 10. So we only have a couple products that will even be used on microchannel. And you got to be careful. So I think there's a question about microchannel here. What about go ahead. What about chemicals ruining the mechanical bond between copper and aluminum fins? All right, good question. You got to be careful. If you use something too strong, like even Nu-Bright, for example. Nu-Bright, I said, is strong. If you leave that on a coil too much, and I didn't mention that, I'm glad you brought that up, you got to rinse. This stuff is meant to be diluted, and it's meant to be rinsed. So if you use something like Nu-Bright, you cannot just put it on straight and leave it there. You will break the bond between the aluminum fins and the copper tubing. So you have to rinse and you have to dilute. Nu-Bright is very concentrated. It's meant to be diluted. So if you leave it on there too long, you can have some corrosion taking place, and you don't want to break that fin tube bond. That's not good. So if you use, and that's why, guys, acid is not normally recommended. Acid's a lot more aggressive than alkalines. So you really should shy away, especially hydrofluoric acid. Most of those coil cleaners are pink, so you should shy away from pink, and that means you're not using an acid. And then when you use a heavy alkaline, rinse and dilute, and then you won't have that issue. Leave it on no longer than 5-10 minutes, and rinse real good until all that foam is gone, because you could have some issues. So thanks for bringing that up. But the thing with microchannel is you just want to be careful on what product you use, okay? And what we're recommending is to use either a product called Tri-Power, which is a more of a general all-purpose cleaner that we've sold for years, and that's the pH is in that range. It's not a high, 12, 13, 14 pH. And Tri-Power is a good all-purpose alkaline cleaner. It won't damage the aluminum. It's nowhere near as aggressive as acids. It's not based on sodium hydroxide, which is what Nu-Bright is. So Tri-Power is your best choice. It's a good all-purpose cleaner, and you can see here it emulsifies, it removes, it degreases, it's a detergent. It's for evaporators. It smells good. It's like a deodorizer. You can use it 1 to 10, and it's a no rinse. And it's non-toxic, it's biodegradable, and it's safe. And we also have a product called CalGreen. That is an all-natural green condenser cleaner, and that's safe for microchannels. So this presentation was not strictly on coil cleaner. It was really more on the flushing solvents and the leak sealants. So I didn't put all 11 coil cleaners up here. We just highlighted really 2 of them. But we have a lot of other different coil cleaners, and again, on our website, Nu-Calgon.com, or you can call me if you have more specific questions on coil cleaners. So the last few minutes here, we're going to talk about a product called AC Renew. And AC Renew has become a very popular product in the Chicagoland area. And it's been out, this is our 8th summer with AC Renew. And for those of you who may know the word Zerol Ice, the name Zerol Ice from several years ago, we changed the name 2 or 3 years ago. It's now called AC Renew. So what is AC Renew? What is Zerol Ice? It's basically a lubricant, a highly synthetic lubricant used for existing air conditioning refrigeration systems. It enables the system to operate quieter and more efficiency with longer service life. Now, what do I mean by longer service life? Because it's a synthetic oil, I think everybody knows synthetic oils are better lubricants than basic mineral oil. If you're a car guy and you're into cars, you probably use synthetic oil in your car. If you follow NASCAR, if you follow professional racing, they all use synthetic oil, motor oil. Same thing in our industry. You could put a better lubricant in that compressor, and it basically does a better job. It lubricates better. There's a word called lubricity. It improves the lubricity. It improves friction drag. It reduces that friction drag, so it's giving it better friction. So by putting this in an air conditioning system, your compressor is actually not working as hard, and your compressor will last longer. And we've done a lot of testing on this to make sure that we can say that. And we can say that. That is a legitimate claim that synthetic oil, since it's more efficient and it improves lubricity and it reduces friction drag, it will make your system more efficient because that compressor is not working as hard. So here you go. Here's your benefits. It improves lubricity, resulting in less work required of the compressor. Reduction in energy consumption. It will reduce noise, which is one of the reasons contractors buy it. They really like to promote it to homeowners, where homeowners are complaining about noisy air conditioning units when that unit starts up. If it's in their backyard, if it's under their kitchen window or under their bedroom window, or it's by their patio, they're outside at night sitting out, or on the weekends, and they're barbecuing or having cocktails, and that unit starts up, it can be very loud. If you put AC Renew in your system, we could pretty much guarantee it would quiet down a noisy AC unit. What else does it do? It increases compressor life, which I mentioned, but it also improves heat transfer. It gets that old oil out of the evaporator. If you have an old R22 system, you can have oil logging in that system, and this synthetic oil will carry that old oil back to the compressor, and it will actually improve the heat transfer in that system. So it has a lot of benefits, and you can even put it in heat pumps. So the product, when we first came out with it, a lot of people were a little hesitant. They didn't quite believe the product worked. They didn't really believe that it was something that they would put in a unit. But over 7-8 years now, it's something that people do use quite a bit. We sell a lot of it in Chicago, and they promote it to homeowners on their cleaning checks, on their service calls, to help quiet down a noisy unit and to save a little money on the person's energy bill. All right, so it's really used for air conditioning, but it can also be used for refrigeration. But most guys are using it in residential air conditioning. Provides for a moderate reduction in friction drag, allowing for energy savings in the startup and running amps. Some people ask me, well, how do I know it really works, and how do I know I'm really getting a benefit? Well, one thing you could do is you can put an amp meter on before you put this in the system, and then you can add AC Renew to the system, and about 45 minutes later you can come back and put an amp meter on, and I pretty much guaranteed that you'll see some kind of amp drop. I have yet to be on a job where it has not dropped running amps or startup amps. And then you can also stand by the unit, and literally sometimes within 10-15 minutes you can hear that unit quiet down, sometimes even 5 minutes. It's kind of amazing stuff. If you've never heard of it or don't know much about it, you can contact me and I can help you and talk to you more about it, because it's a neat product that you can really use as a benefit to your residential customers. The big can that you see on the left is 4 ounces of oil and 2 ounces of R22. So that big can is used for R22 only. It's not for 410A. So that's pressurized. You use the same valve as the RX11, and it's not a piercing valve. It's the same concept as RX11. You just use that valve, you put it on a hose on the suction side. The system has to be running on a warmer day, and the system just takes it right in. It's 4 ounces of oil and 2 ounces of R22. Okay, on the smaller can to the right, that's an unpressurized can. That's just the 4 ounces of oil. There is no R22 in that can, so that's really what guys are using for 410A, but you can also use it for R22 as well. It's less expensive because there's no refrigerant in that can, and you use a dye injector to pump it into the system. So both products are the same oil, same exact everything, except one is pressurized with 22 and the other one is not. So one thing that this presentation doesn't show on AC Renew is for contractors that are interested in AC Renew, we actually do a marketing program with you where if you buy 10 cans of AC Renew, we print 250 trifolds for you with your name on it. It's a customized program we developed a couple years ago, and it's very popular. And it's a marketing brochure to help you and your service guys promote it to the homeowner. So we help you market it. All you have to do is buy 10 cans. We'll print you 250. We'll put your logo on it, your address, your website, your phone number, and then you can go out and stock your trucks up with the AC Renew and go out and promote it to your residential customers. And if you don't sell the 10 cans, we'll even work with you on taking the product back at the end of the summer. So it's a profitable product. A lot of contractors charge about $150 or more to the homeowner, and you can get pricing on all this stuff through Excelsior, but it's something you should really consider if you're looking for opportunities to increase profitability on your service call. So we just checked for more, what type of compressors? What type of compressors? You're talking about for AC Renew, what type of compressors? You can put AC Renew in any type of compressors, scroll compressors, recip compressors, it doesn't matter. The type of compressor is not an issue, really. So I think that's all the questions we have. My contact information, I mentioned it earlier, but I'll give it to you again. It's Jeff Peterson, and my cell phone number is 847-323-1874. You can also email me at jpeterson, and that's Petersen, at Nu-Calgon.com, NuCalgon.com. If you have any questions at all about what we covered today, I know we had an hour. We kind of filled it in pretty quick with a bunch of stuff. Any chemical questions in general, anything specific, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you. I can go to job sites. I can go out to your company. I can do training for your service techs. Any Excelsior sales guy listening, obviously we're available for joint sales calls. So thanks, everyone, for participating. Dave's going to say something, but I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for your time and educating our customers. This will be posted online for you to review or to pass to other people. You'll get an email as to the link because that's one of the things you had to enter in. So, again, thank you for your time, and look forward to meeting you on the next webinar. Thanks very much.